Welcome to After the Call, the podcast dedicated to the stories and struggles behind the badge, the turnout gear, and the uniform. Each week, we'll bring you a powerful conversations with first responders, mental health professionals, and advocates who are breaking the stigma, sharing their journeys, and offering real solutions. We'll talk about PTSD resilience, family impact, and the resources that can make a difference. Because the job doesn't just leave scars on the body, it affects the mind, the heart, and the people who serve alongside us. And no one should have to carry that burden alone. This is After the Call, where you'll find strength through resilience.
All right. Welcome to another episode of After the Call. I'm your host, Patrick, with my co-host,
Veronica,
and we're joined with Chris and Amber from
Autumn.
From Preston's Pursuit for Acceptance.
Yes.
You're not the first one who's called me Amber.
Yeah, sorry. I am having like super brain fog today.
You're
so.
good.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you guys do because I think it's awesome. I think it's a cool thing that you guys are doing now. I wish we had some more of this information when I was on the job, because it probably would have changed some of the things. So if you want to just kind of go into what brought you to start this and kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go ahead?
I'll let you start.
All right. So Autumn and I have two boys. They're both neurodivergent. And our oldest, Preston, is 19 years old. And about when he was 5, I think he received his diagnosis with autism spectrum disorder. And at the time I had been, probably about 4 or 5 years at Gilbert. And I was teaching defensive tactics and didn't really understand what autism was. And, we got that diagnosis and we're like, I don't know what that means. And then as he started getting older and I was teaching more DT stuff and seeing everything in our handbook and in our manual from AZ Post about like, hey, when someone doesn't make eye contact with you, that means they want to fight you. That means they want to take off. But we were finding out that Preston couldn't make eye contact with us, and he wasn't wanting to fight us, and he wasn't wanting to take off. And so we wanted to try and change the way that we were teaching and doing those things. And then as the years went on and he got older, we started seeing that more often than not, and on TV and different places, that officers were going to calls and misinterpreting people that had autism as being impaired or suspicious or criminal or even, aggressively posturing. And we were seeing a lot of negative uses of force. And that was making it really hard for both of us, especially me, wanting to continue to teach DT. Because I was like, how can I continue to teach that the way they're teaching it and not even mention that there's another side, that it's autism, It's not impairment, it's not drugs, it's not alcohol. And in 2017, there was that incident that happened in Buckeye.
Yep. And
that one rocked my world and rocked Autumn's world really bad, because we were like, that kid he was 14, he was playing with a string. And that officer didn't know what stimming or any of these things were. And to me, that kid was Preston. And I didn't want to continue in law enforcement at that time. And Autumn's like, we have an opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah. And
so that's kind of where it started.
Well, yeah. So, seeing something like that in the media, being the wife of a law enforcement officer for so many years, but also the mother of 2 neurodivergent boys, it was really difficult. It was hard to see that. But I also saw a need for giving a voice to both sides, to our first responders who aren't getting the training, who aren't getting the tools. They're not brought the awareness and the information they need to be successful for these encounters. But also, being the mother of 2 neurodivergent boys, there was just a need to give them a voice as well on these calls for service. And then, yes, that incident that occurred in Buckeye was crushing, but also I saw it as this is an opportunity to do something good with this instead of, curling up in the fetal position and saying, why me? And so, we decided we were going to create this nonprofit, Preston's Pursuit for Acceptance, named after our oldest son, and do something good with that information and bring it to our first responders and help them, support them. But we don't just show up and talk at them. We bring them resources. We bring them support. We want to be that safe place to land, not only for our first responders, but the disability community.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think you have told me before that there's different levels on the spectrum that classifies it for autism and stuff like that.
Yes.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so they either call it, back in the day, they would either call it high functioning or low functioning. But now there's a new manual, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. You're probably familiar with it.
Yep.
They have a level 1, level 2, and level 3. And level 1 is an individual that has more abilities, and they generally consider them higher functioning. So they're able to like drive a car, they're able to maintain a job, go to school, do things. And then level 2, they might require some supports. They can still drive a car. Like our son, he can still drive a car, he goes to college and stuff, but they have difficulties and challenges in relating to people and communicating with people and how they perceive things and then how they respond back to individuals. And then level 3 are usually individuals that have a harder time and require a lot more support. So like 50% of individuals with autism are nonverbal. So that would be like a level 3 as well, where they can't even communicate their basic needs. They
Sure.
can't communicate that they're thirsty, that they have to go to the bathroom, or, and in a crisis situation, that's even harder when you don't have a voice and you can't communicate. And, that's really hard. And another thing about our training and about the resources is these first responders that go on these calls that don't know anything about it, it's creating a trauma that they're going to have to live with for the rest of their lives. Because when they find out after the fact and they've used force on an individual, that person never had the ability to comply, they're going to live with that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that guilt. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. No, and I think that's important on, why we wanted to have you on there, because you are going to the academies, you are offering these trainings and doing all these different things, but there may be agencies that don't get this, and having viewers and listeners to kind of maybe pay attention to some more of the signs, stimming like you were talking about, the nonverbal cues, you name it, whatever those things are. I mean, that's definitely what we want to get out there.
Well, and the key piece here is we are bringing them information, but we're not expecting them to be psychiatrists by any means, but we just want them to know, like if somebody that they encounter says, I'm stimming, then they know what that means, and they say, okay, I need to take a moment, take a step back, let them have their moment to stim, because that means they're dysregulated, their body's feeling off, and to support them and know how to support them. And that's what's really important to us.
Yeah. And another component is, and we all know this, but when we go to like an active shooter situation, the first thing we do when we evacuate that school is we tell those kids to drop everything and run with their hands out. But if there's a kid in the school that uses a tablet or a book that they point to communicate their needs, we just took their voice box away from them. And they're not able to communicate anything, and we're having them run out of the building, and they're going to be overstimulated, they're going to be really anxious, and again, now we're having first responders having to try and navigate that with them and get that through that. So one of the pieces that we bring in our training is we actually bring AAC devices, which is augmentative and alternative communication, and we teach first responders how to use those devices, how to communicate with somebody, how to do forensic interviewing, very basic forensic interviewing, but we teach them how to do that. And then the resource, like Autumn talks about, is we give them that information, so they might go to a family and say, hey, you can program this tablet and you should learn how to program it, so your kid only has to push one button. And especially like with the found child, it's like my name is, and this is my address, and this is my mom's number. So we were trying to reunify those kids a lot quicker.
That's huge.
Yeah. Are you guys encountering any like struggles with getting the word out, or resistance within the agencies, or
A little bit, we'll hear it's not in their budget, come back later, or just that's our biggest thing. Our biggest hurdle is, hearing that it's not in their budget and they can't do it right now. And we get that, having, been in law enforcement for so long, we understand, how the budgetary issues are. But we don't just disappear. We keep coming back and reminding them, here we are. We're here to provide you a service. We're here to support you guys. We're here for you. And so we're hoping that eventually they'll come back around and be like, okay, yeah, we need that. But we've also had some really positive response, and agencies that are like, yes, we need this. We want this, because it's in person, and it's interactive. Unlike there's other platforms out there that are provided, but it's, you hit a video, you press play, and 9 times out of 10,
it's like hazmat.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And they fully admit, I just hit play and I walk away, and then what are you getting out of that? You're not learning anything. No. So that's what we think is so unique and special about our training.
Are you guys doing this like in conjunction with like CIT training or anything? Or?
So a little bit. A lot of the CIT training, they cover kind of the whole gamut. Yep. And so we actually, we focus more, we get a lot of the CIT officers that will come to like our multi-agency trainings, and then they'll want to bring it back to their entire agency. But because we focus a lot more on what autism is and how it manifests, and then the resources, and we talk about our pension system. No one even knew this, and we didn't know it until I was getting ready to retire. But there's a provision that if your child has a disability, your survivor benefits or Autumn survivor benefits will get passed on to that child for the rest of their life.
That's good.
And HR departments don't tell you about that. Public safety pension system doesn't tell you about that. So we help these officers, because a lot of times we go to these trainings, and it often happens to Autumn, but they come up to her on a break and they're like, you just described my kid, and where do I go from here? And what do I do? And, to know that you're not going to have to work for the rest of your life because you actually will have that pension go on for the rest of their life is a huge piece for them.
So with the parents that are coming to you, or the first responders that are coming to you at these trainings that are bringing this up, is it just they have no idea, or they just don't have the voice for it, or?
It's probably combo of both. But yeah, we are finding a lot of times like they don't have the knowledge of the resources out there. They don't know where to turn, where to go. It's so relatable, because when we first got the diagnosis for Preston, we literally were handed a piece of paper and then sent out the door. And so here you're sitting there like that gut punch of, oh my gosh, my kid was just, labeled with a disability, but where do I go? Where do I turn? Who has the answers for me? And so, being able to provide that for people makes a big difference. It matters. It matters to us because we don't want anybody else to go through the struggles we went through to, get those resources, get the therapies, get, all the things that he needed to be successful, because that was important.
And I would say, unfortunately, it's the you don't know what you don't know, right? Because I think that's why we speak on our platform, is because we went through things that we didn't know or believe in until it happened to us, and then we were like, well, I was like kicking the balls, and then you're like, well, fuck, nobody should have to do this. So
100%.
Yeah, and I really promise I don't have balls, but just saying.
Good to know. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
So when you got the diagnosis, did you have resources, or were they offering you any type of training, any type of educational stuff, or was it just like, go figure it out?
No, you literally were just sent on your way, and you have this knowledge of, this is what my kid's been diagnosed with, but that's it. So for me, it was really digging in, and because I didn't want this to be a label on my son that was going to define him the rest of his life, and then him not be successful and be able to do amazing things in the world, because he was still capable, but he just needed some extra support. And so that was so important. I made all the calls. I was relentless, but I guess that's a typical parent too. So, and that's why, again, we feel like this is so important, because we also see the struggles that first responders go through, and they often don't feel like they have a voice, and they're not getting the resources and the support that they need. And so that's why we feel like this is so key, because it's not just about our disability community, it's about our first responders. We want to make sure that they're set up for success. So when they have these encounters, they don't walk away feeling, I'm an asshole. What the hell did I just do? I could have walked away with that in such a better manner. Well, now we can avoid some of that, because they know what to look for. They know how to support them better, and they know how to handle that call for service better.
Well, it sounds like you're the voice on both sides, right? The voice for the people that may not have a voice, and then also the voice on the first responder side that may not have a voice, either.
Exactly.
And I really, it kind of bugs me that, agencies are giving you the pushback on financial stuff, because the cost to get training is way cheaper than these huge lawsuits.
Lawsuit.
I mean, I would only imagine what Buckeye had to pay out on that.
A lot.
I mean, it's probably in the millions.
It was.
So we're talking, a fraction of what any of that would cost just to get a little bit of understanding on things that we may not just pay attention to.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the key is, awareness and making sure that they know that this is important. This will be the success story for your agency, for your people. Do this for your people, so that they can feel better each day when they get to work and how those interactions happen. I don't know if Chris had mentioned before too, and this I'm probably segueing into something different, but we also created House Bill 2330, and which is now officially a law. It's ARS 28-459, and it's called a communication accommodation. And again, it's about more success stories for our first responders and our disability community. Because our son, he's a newer driver, and he's very mindful about all the rules and what do I need to do to make sure I get from point A to point B successfully. And he's been raised around those in uniform his whole life. But if he got pulled over, I guarantee you he's going to shut down. He's not going to remember his name, his date of birth. His anxiety is going to go through the roof, and it won't probably be a success story for either one involved. But with our communication accommodation that we had passed September 26th, that went officially into effect, this is now something that's a voluntary disclosure, and so it's information that the disability community can go to the MVD, have this put on their license, on their vehicle.
So you get to read back on the 27th.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And then that way, when the officer approaches the vehicle, they already know ahead of time, okay, I'm about to encounter somebody that may need an accommodation. They may need support with communication. And then that way they have more of that information and awareness when they approach that individual.
Is it also something that's actually put on the license?
No. So that was the one thing that we were really advocating for, because Preston didn't want a label, and a lot of people don't want a label, like a placard or something, or any identifier for like a red scarlet letter. And with autism, most individuals that have autism are susceptible to being a victim at like 7 times greater than regular neurotypical society. So it's just on the readback, so it's hidden. So when you run a plate, it'll come back and say someone in that vehicle has a communication accommodation need, like Autumn said, or it's on the record for the license or non-operating ID card. And the other unique part about it is, I see you're getting ready to say it. It's not just for autism; it's for all disabilities, so acquired and developmental. So PTSD is allowed to be on there. Epilepsy, seizures, diabetes, dementia, autism, cerebral palsy, any disability you're eligible to go in there. And that's a huge thing too, because a lot of us struggle with PTSD, and for someone to know, hey, I'm gonna get pulled over, that's anxiety right there.
I can remember once, like, oh my gosh, I was not in a good place, and I used to avoid driving through Gilbert. And one day I'd left the bank on Gilbert Road, and I was driving home south, and I moved over to Lindsay, and I remember getting pulled over, and thankfully it was somebody I knew. And like afterwards, I was like, oh my God, he knew I was fucking freaking out, because I was just like, blah, 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 and I was like, oh my God. First of all, I felt like I made an ass of myself. After I was like, oh my God, like what is wrong with you? Definitely. Thankfully, he knew what was wrong with me, so it went well. But I can see where that could lead to, like, what are you on? What the fuck's going on with you? Like, why are you freaking out over nothing?
Exactly.
Because it wasn't. I mean, I think I was speeding, but it wasn't anything. Like, I didn't rob the bank.
Full disclosure.
I don't know. I mean, we've been on the job for years, but there's a cop behind me. I still like.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think that's normal for everyone, right? I mean, that's just a typical response.
Depending on what
All
city
the
you're
stuff real quick.
Right.
Yeah.
Gilbert for sure.
9 and 3.
Well, and that's the thing. We just felt like this was more inclusive, and it opened itself up to more disabilities, more people that needed that support out there, aside from just autism, because that's important. And there's this common piece out there called the blue envelope, but that is specific to autism. And it's literally a physical blue envelope that goes, in your glove box, what have you. But I I guarantee you most of those with disabilities are not going to be able to reach over and try to grab that envelope, and it's not going to be
and if
positive.
the cops don't know what they're reaching over for, and they're like, no, I don't need that. All I need is your registration. Like, leave that shit in there.
Exactly. Yeah. And they see it as furtive movement.
Right.
What is happening? What are they reaching for? And so again, it's not a positive situation. So with this, they don't have to reach over. They don't have to be trying to dig around for something, or maybe they can't even do that to begin with. And so this is more, a positive situation for everyone involved, which was key for us. It mattered to us.
Now, to back up for a second, are you guys trying to pass this bill nationwide? Because that's, Arizona obviously is great here, but
yes,
we're not the only state that deals with this. So.
Absolutely. No, we definitely want to see this go nationwide because, again, this doesn't just happen in Arizona. It happens everywhere, right? And so, yes, that's our goal, is to bring this nationwide. There are other couple of states that have something similar.
Yeah, we're one of 6 states or 7 states now that has something similar, but ours is really unique because it's 100% voluntary, and it doesn't require you to go get a doctor's note. It doesn't require you to bring any paperwork into the MVD, and for them to store your records and store that information, it's 100% voluntary opt-in. And the other unique part is if you were driving Preston when he was 2 years old and you would routinely drive him, you could put it on your car, because you're just a caregiver driving that person around. And that's a really unique part too, because a lot of times individuals with disabilities aren't driving.
Right.
And so they're driving somewhere, and if the caregiver, if it's grandma and she gets in a car wreck or has a heart attack or something and can't talk, but the kid's in the car, we still need to know what's going on.
So. Well, especially if you're changing routine, because now you're causing that reaction.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So who are your guys' allies in trying to push this in other states? So who do you guys need for that?
Well, we have Representative Julie Willoughby from the House of Representatives that helped us sponsor our current bill, and she's really wanting to push that to go out of the other states. But I think the biggest thing is we need officers from other communities to realize that, again, this is that other component that will help them save their lives and help them save their careers, as well as save other individuals' lives and careers. And so I think it really starts with them, like, starting to talk about it and, hey, how do we do this? And then we're more than willing to go out there and help them and give them the language and give them the history and the method behind how it was done.
Okay.
Yeah, and we always make sure we implement it into our training, so we're trying to get the word out that way as well. And we just recently went out of state for the first time with our training. We went to New Mexico, which was a huge milestone for us, and we made sure we brought it to them as well. You guys need this here, and this is awesome. And so they were all really excited about it. Actually, we got overwhelming positive response, so it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How big was the agency in New Mexico?
It was multi-agency.
Okay.
Yeah, it was at their main training facility, and so it was. We had individuals from all over the state come and attend our training, and it wasn't just first responders. We had behavioral health care workers as well that came, and they were just like blown away by the level of the training. So again, really awesome.
Yeah.
Are you guys also doing this at fire stations? You name it, like DOC, corrections, like
I thought I saw something with dispatchers. You guys are trying to do some training so they can recognize it on the phone or something?
Yes, we always make sure that dispatchers are always involved in our training. We make sure, because they're also a key piece, and they're the first ones to come in contact with that individual. And so yes, we absolutely make sure that they're a part of it, and we find that really important.
Yeah, so we have the dispatchers actually integrated in the training with the first responders, because they are first responders as well, but they are really the one that could set the tone for the success of any call with the information they're getting and the information that they're broadcasting. So we include them, but we do have a fire track as well, an EMS track. Getting it into DOC, we haven't written that yet, that lesson plan, but we believe that's going to be very challenging, because that's going to change a lot of breaking down those barriers, right? Getting into that system, because a lot of people do get incarcerated and they do have autism, but how do you change a classification system everywhere and tell a detention, or a correctional officer like, oh, well, you got to treat these individuals differently, right? Because I started in corrections and it was fair, firm, and consistent. Everybody gets treated the same.
Sure.
But you can't do that with somebody that doesn't operate that way, and how do you house that? So I think that's the next big hurdle, and we talked about it a little bit.
Well, we did bring our training to the Pinal County probation officers, and that, again, that was a really great training that everybody felt like they got so much, and they're like, why aren't more of us doing this? And the shared experiences are so key too. They're always so willing to share, which is incredible, because that's how you learn, that's how you move forward, right? Is learning from your experiences, but also sharing those. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we are working on trying to get in with fire as well. And again, there's been a bit of a hurdle with that, but we're working on it. So, and we do have the tract ready for them. So,
and it's crazy. When I was doing the research and when we were writing our lesson plan, there's no standardized training in fire service or in police service on autism awareness.
No.
But we have standardized field sobriety tests. Surrounding call-outs the same in every state. SWAT tactics are generally the same, right? And so everything else is pretty much the same, but something that like autism, where there's 1 in 31 individuals being diagnosed with autism today, and that's like nationwide. There's areas like California where it's like 1 in 19 because it's really populated. But there's nothing standardized on it. And that opens up those agencies for those civil rights violations, because literally it says you can be held liable if your municipality failed to provide training to you or failed to train you on something that was foreseeable that you were going to encounter in your career.
Yeah, wow. I can't even imagine. I mean, you would think that this is something that's standardized, like you said, but agencies are definitely behind the curve.
Do they have any, or do you know, I mean, I've been out of it now like 9 years, so I don't know what's changed, but I think I remember one kind of maybe briefing training or something back in the day, but it was very, just generic training, I guess, to check off the box.
Under the umbrella of mental health.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are they doing anything more in our normal police
I just
training?
remember CIT. That was it. That's what I keep falling to for the real in depth on that. Paying attention to the cues, the nonverbal cues, all that other stuff, and then what are you going to do once you have that person calm, or what are you going to do to calm that person? But that was it. And that, let's see, I did that. I want to say it was 2016.
Oh wow.
2017.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was, that was it.
Yeah.
And unless you were picked to be the CIT officer or you put in for it or whatever, you're not getting that training.
No.
Right.
And then after that, you're not going back to your station saying, "Hey, I learned this," because you're now the guy that they're calling every time.
Everyone.
Yeah. You're like, I know nothing.
So that's really bad.
Well, and the numbers are going up. I mean, the numbers are climbing constantly, and it's just there's more resources at people's fingertips, and so there's more people being diagnosed with it, and so why wouldn't we try to do better for our community and empower each other more with more knowledge?
Have the grants, we have whoever it is, I can't even think the. Whatever that gives all the traffic tickets
and
GRHS. All the ones who do the traffic grants, seatbelt thing or fucking DUI thing, and not that those are not important, but I'm just saying we have all of those. Is there any way we can is there anywhere for you guys to get grants to get something like that sponsored, even if it's a one time a year conference type thing where all the local agencies can send people or something?
Yeah, we are working on that. It's definitely been challenging for us because we are so new and just learning what's the proper way to fill out some of this paperwork and what do they need from us. But we're pretty excited. We were just nominated under Mountain America Credit Union to receive a $1,000 grant from them, which is exciting to us. And so through today, people can go in and vote for us to get the grant. But we're still working on that as well, navigating that system and try to get those grants because they are important. And I think, if they learn more about how important our training is, they'd probably be more willing to work with us, but we're learning.
Yeah, grant writing is a pain in the ass. I mean, there's no way around it. And a a lot of times that, sometimes you need to partner with that agency on the front end. And again, they want the flashy new taser, they want the flashy new, whatever it is, toy. They don't want to get that training until
You
they
need to
have
like flash all these lawsuits that have happened. Like, look at this number and this number in this situation.
Yeah,
and
don't be that.
Right.
Like, let's do better. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And it's crazy because the curriculum when we went to the academy is all the same on the mental health block. It's 4 hours. It covers all the mental health. Every hour you take a break. So you're getting about 40 minutes, 50 minutes of training. And you're talking about schizophrenia. You're talking about drug-induced. And we're going to talk about autism. And it's nobody that really understands it, right? It's usually just a general instructor that came in and they're like, I'm going to read off this PowerPoint slide. And here we go.
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of like Bill does our trainings and stuff. And I find also, and I've heard from officers that are going through PTSD and things, that if the person is just reading something that they learned in school, but they don't know the experiences and the feelings and the hardships that come with it, they're just reading something to say they did this, and they're not relatable. It's hard to believe or have buy-in when they don't have the experience and the real life experience with that. So
absolutely,
you guys definitely have that buy-in.
We definitely have that part. No, but I love the part too that when we're bringing this training to the agencies, those that are engaging, and they really share some even self-deprecating situations that they've encountered, how they could have done better. But I always thank them so much for sharing those, because how else are you going to learn if you're not sharing that and saying, okay, I fucked up on that call, I could have done better, but okay, now I have the tools, now I have the information, and now I can move forward. And we've had that too. We've had individuals that shared these awful encounters that they've had where they screwed up, and then after our training they come back and they're like, oh my God, I had this call for service and it was so crazy because everything came back to me that I learned in your class, and it went completely different, and everything ended so positively and so well. And so that's amazing.
Yeah, because what you're teaching them is what to look for. Right.
Yes, exactly. And it's so commonly misconstrued as impairment, drugs, what have you. And so we're like, take a minute, because it's not what you think it is, not always. And so, just taking that tactical pause as we utilize in our training, and, and just, okay, assess this a little bit more. Let's take a little more time, especially if you're not in danger, they're not trying to hurt you, but they're just pacing or what have you.
So you coming from a more tactical background, right? How, and now seeing this information on this side of it, put yourself back in one of those situations on any of our, past tactical events, except for the one in Phoenix. That didn't go so well. Yeah. But
burned a house.
Yeah. And find yourself in a situation where you're with an individual who's experiencing having these experiences. How hard, because I can see where like you have to still maintain safety, you have to still be alert, you have to how are you switching that to take that pause? Like what is needed before you overreact or don't react, and it's not somebody with autism, it's somebody who really is trying to hurt you.
Right. And it's a great question. So like one of the things that we talk about when we teach the tactical pause method is if they're not hurting themselves and they're not hurting somebody else or coming after you, do you have to rush in?
Right.
Time's on our side.
Time's on our side.
Yes.
And we use other examples like, have you ever said anything to your spouse or your kids that you're like, man, I wish I could take that back. Take a tactical pause there, or send an email, right? Like just take that pause for a second. And it's that simple to do that. And I can tell you, going back to some of the calls that I was on, and I was very ask, tell, make, and there was no commas. It was all just ATM. I was asking, telling you, and making you do what I wanted you to do at the same time. I didn't have to do that. And I got a lot of injuries from that. I had my back fused. I had all kinds of different things. And
but that's what we were taught.
That's what we were taught, right? And when I started slowing down and even doing it right before I retired and started really teaching this, I didn't have to use force all the time. And it was amazing how I was not popping Advil when I was at home, or I wasn't having to sit in a cold plunge or lay on the heating pad. And just from that selfish side, right? Like I'm not beating myself up from just getting into a physical confrontation for shit I didn't have to do. And and seeing it when you play it out and knowing that you're not going to hurt somebody else and you're not even maybe going to have to write a report. And it's not cool to go out and kick the shit out of somebody that doesn't deserve it. I mean, it's really not, because it's a trauma again that you're creating. And so just looking at it from that perspective, I think, again, it's going to save careers. It's going to make them go longer. We're maybe not exposed to as many traumatic incidents, right? And like, we can drive down streets in Gilbert, Mesa, Phoenix, and we're like, that happened there. That happened there. Oh, I took that person down there. And then you probably could sit back and be like, I probably didn't even really need to do that, but I did it because I could.
Right.
You're making my past not fun.
I'm not trying to.
I'm trying to. So I had one incident where the gentleman was autistic, and back then it was either, like you said, high functioning or low functioning. And I remember like squad mates not looking at the bigger picture. And I want to say he was mid 30s wearing a SpongeBob shirt. And I had just done CIT training, and it was like, pay attention to these cues. Why are they pacing? Why are they, looking away from you every time you're trying to get them to focus on you, all this other stuff. And I just pulled out my phone. I said, I'm going to watch SpongeBob. Instantly sat down, took my phone, and then we were able to now work through the problem versus creating the bigger problem by like forcibly restraining a person or getting injured, like you said, during an altercation that didn't need to happen. But it was like something so simple as SpongeBob. Like, this is crazy. Like, why didn't we think of this like sooner?
Yeah.
But
I love that.
It's wild because you don't pay attention to those cues initially because everything is safety. Where's the danger coming from? The ninja's coming through the ceiling and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, like,
you had those in Mesa too.
It happens. Everywhere. Well, but it's just weird that we're not looking at that as a culture anymore. Versus, like you said, I'm going to ask you, then I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to fucking make you.
Yeah. And that could just be obviously just the awareness, right? Like we didn't know. It just wasn't as in our face. There weren't as many people when we all started that were being diagnosed. It's been more epidemic, like in the last 10, 15 years, so that's just part of, we weren't training what we didn't know was existing, I guess. And obviously we know that it's there, so there is that need for it now. Are you guys finding officers, like I would say when we talk to people, the most resistant are those our age and above? Are you guys finding that like the old school guys are harder to understand, and the younger kids have a little more understanding?
It's so funny you bring that up, because I specifically remember one agency where we were warned ahead of time. You got a lot of salty dogs here in this class today, so just you're warned. And I'm like, okay, I got this. And sure enough, they're the ones that share the most information, and they were the most touched by our training. They were very open. They were willing to say, yeah, I screwed up on that call, and here's how it went, and I wish it would have gone different. But no, we find the more seasoned officers and what have you are the ones that actually are the most engaged, and we get the most information from. But I also want to speak to the point that you made about encountering that individual with the SpongeBob shirt. That can be misunderstood, and because our son, 19 years old, he's looks like a grown man, and so it's scary because he may be walking around with a Beanie Baby, and he's rubbing it on his face, and he's smelling it, because that's his soothing. But that can be misunderstood and misconstrued. And like, why is this person, grown man, walking around with a Beanie Baby? And so, you're oftentimes going to encounter adults that are on the autism spectrum that have these disabilities, and they can't tell you, they can't share, or they don't feel comfortable sharing. But they're presenting a little different, almost like a child possibly. But knowing how to encounter that better and how to support them, but also support yourself. So,
and it's a great example. You took some time.
Yeah. But that's the thing is we walk into a room, we have multiple hats that we have to put on.
Yes.
And they, the public expects us to be the doctor to figure out, what's the diagnosis of this person, or are they on drugs or whatever. And we're like, dude, all this looks the same. If you're high on meth, you're going to look just like you're schizophrenic. If you're coming on off of blues, you could look the same as this. It's just like, how are you supposed to know the difference without really knowing? But we have to make that split-second decision. And we're human. We're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
But with having knowledge like you're putting out, at least we'll have that, in our Rolodex and say, hey, I heard this somewhere. Let's try this. Let's see what happens.
Well, and that's the key piece is like, you're expected to wear all these hats. You're expected to have all this knowledge and information and solve all the problems when you go to these calls. But at least we're able to empower you and give you that information so that you can go back and go, okay, yes, this is what I was told. This is what I learned. And oh my gosh, they're presenting exactly how I learned in class, And then again, you're going to have that better encounter because you've been empowered and given more knowledge.
Sweet.
Yeah, and we never tell anybody don't use force, right? Because you do have to be safe, and you do have to use it. And if it's exigent, then we'll figure that out later, right? You got to do what you got to do to be safe. But what we really want to do is cause it to not, or have you identify it sooner in your interaction, so you don't make something that's not exigent turn into a use of force. And that's kind of that fork in the road that we want to get to, and get people to do that. We had a couple of officers that went through our training, and one of them actually he wrote a testimonial, and he wanted to be anonymous about it, but he had said he went and he was doing a traffic stop one night, and the guy didn't have lights on his Jeep, so he stopped the car. He goes up and he's thinking, maybe it's just somebody that doesn't know how to turn their lights on, or they're burned out, or maybe they're drunk, right? Yeah. And so he goes up to talk to the individual that's driving, and the person won't look at him, won't make eye contact, and all he kept saying is, I don't answer questions. I don't answer questions. And so he starts backing up, and he said he's, breaking the release on his gun, and he's getting ready to pull it out of the holster, and he's like, wait a minute. He didn't try and take off. He's not doing anything. And then he radioed to dispatch, and he's like, hey, can you call the registered owner on this vehicle and find out who's driving and whatever? And long story short, the mom's like, yes, that's my son. He's driving his brother's Jeep. He's autistic. When he gets upset, he only says, I don't answer questions. And so he literally told us, he's like, man, I thought I was going to get into a shooting. He's like, I was right there. And he's like, but it was what you said. It wasn't exigent, and I didn't have to make it exigent. I backed off. He didn't take off. Nothing happened. And I took that pause, started looking at it critically, looking at the totality of it. And long story short, the mom came out and was like, so thankful. She's like, this is a great positive interaction, because now he's not going to be afraid to be around police officers. And, and the mom was like so thankful that happened. And he was the officer was like, man, I thought I was going to get in my shooting.
And how good does that feel for the officer, right? To know that they recognized something and avoided it and possibly helped this child in the future, or this person in the future, deal with encounters and things.
Absolutely.
It's always nice to have some good positive things to put in the pocket.
We definitely need more positive things.
Yes. Well, so often our first responders are doing this job because they want to make a difference. They want to be supporting their community, right? And so, why wouldn't we empower them more and give them that ability to do their job in that way?
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, you should be proud to know that your training saved multiple lives on that, because who knows where that would have gone. I mean, if they got in a shooting, he slammed on the gas, rode in the traffic. I mean, all these people that could be affected in the long run. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So you should be definitely proud of that.
We really are. And again, to hear that first responder want to reach back out to us, because I've gone to trainings. We've all gone to trainings. How many times did you reach out to somebody that you went to a training on?
Never.
And say, something you taught me saved my life and made a difference. That's what we're doing. So it's huge.
It's funny because, to speak on that too, so often you're, as a first responder, you're told to go to these trainings. It's like you're not really there willingly or wanting to be there. But many times we hear them say, thank you. I wish it would have been longer. I wish we had more time for this training. And then I often get hugs at the end of the training, which I'm a hugger, so I don't mind. But the fact that they're just so grateful and they want the training and they want more training is amazing, because, so often you're like, you got to go to this training. You're being forced to go. But they are happy to be there and they really want to learn more. So
that's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So we have a website, prestonspursuit.org. We also have social media. We have Facebook and Instagram at Preston's Pursuit. And we also have LinkedIn. So we'd love for people to come on and follow us and reach out. You can reach out through our website, and we're always here to answer questions and provide support. So.
And if you're cool with it, we'll add it to our website on our resources page, so people can just click on it and go straight to you guys. And then
thank you.
obviously you'll be on the podcast, so we'll do all that stuff. But I think it's great. I think it's important. Definitely just keep fighting that good fight, because it sucks that you're getting the pushback about money. Money shouldn't be the issue. I mean,
Agreed.
I'm sure it's not super expensive, but it's going to save people in the long run. It's going to save a lot more than money.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer. It should be anyways.
Yeah, you could literally like train a whole agency for cheaper than a really good cold plunge tub.
Or lawsuit.
Or a lawsuit. That's the big one, right? Yeah. And that's the other thing, right? The $5 million lawsuit, the negative publicity, the public outcry, the shaming, and the guilt.
The trauma.
The
trauma. It's the big one. And trying to avoid that. Because our first responders go through enough. And even our disability community has their own trauma that they deal with. So why wouldn't we try to avoid some of that in the best way we can?
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And we'll follow up with you and see how all that's going, and maybe we can collaborate
maybe at some
on
point.
training.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Maybe when we do some of our workshops and things, we can bring you guys in.
We're always looking for opportunities like that, so that's awesome. We really appreciate you guys having us on today too. This is so great.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
And we'll get you guys to one of our trainings too.
Yep.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing this dude every week. So.
You do?
I'm still working on that part. It's a process.
Retirement's been interesting.
All right. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.